Now, if you think I'm going to talk about the Chiefs and the Bills and the Commanders and the Eagles, you are sadly mistaken. We're not doing that in this episode, okay? Because you know why? We got drama with coaches, okay? And not with all coaches, but one specific coach, okay, in Florida, okay? We got betrayal in Tampa, folks, okay? Brian Schottenheimer is the new coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Liam Coen is officially the coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pete Carroll heads to Vegas. Bobby Slowik gets the boot from Houston. Robert Salah goes back to Cali. Big Ben speaks on the state of the Steelers. And Russ makes his bid for another chance with Pittsburgh, okay? All of this and more on the 63 episode of the Football Junkies podcast, okay? I am your host with the most, okay? I am your chief bagrodamus, where everything and anything related to the bag and more is in my ballpark, okay? As well as your GM, who currently is not on a team right now, but has sources at the Senior Bowl. What will they tell me? What will I know? I don't know. Maybe I'll tell you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Who knows? But most importantly, I am your chief head of the table. Anything and everything related to the offseason, the bag, trades, speculations, rumors, anything and everything you could possibly think of, okay? But I'm all these things and more. But most importantly, the most important title that you must remember is I am your host, Kale. You already know how things are about to go. This is about to be a loaded episode. We might have a loaded week of twists and turns, truth bombs, and some reality checks for certain teams. But guess what? We're all going to love it. So guess what? On three, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. Okay, so yes, I am not talking about the playoffs right now. Okay, I'm going to save that for the second episode because there's a lot to talk about with that episode. Okay, we got betrayal in Tampa, folks. Okay, this is like a drama series. This is like Days of Our Lives, but with football. Okay, we're going to get into that segment, but before we get into that, we got to talk about a few other coaches that either got hired or fired. Okay, so let's start with Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer is now the official head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Whoo, man, oh man, if you would have told me that he would have been a head coach for the Cowboys, I would have called you a liar. But he is. So let's go a little bit into the background of Brian Schottenheimer. Okay, so he was an offensive coordinator for the Jets from 2006 to 2011, the Rams from 2012 to 2014, the Seahawks from 2018 to 2020, and the Cowboys from 2023 to 2024. Okay, he joined the Cowboys as a consistent in 2022 and worked with Dan Quinn for a majority of the time. After Kellen Moore left in 2020, he became the offensive coordinator. However, Mike McCarthy took over the play calling responsibilities, according to Todd Archer from ESPN. Also, he was not a well. Actually, no. Let me take a step back. While he wasn't a play caller for the Cowboys, he quote unquote had a large role in the offense. Weird, I know, right? Also, he has a strong relationship with Dak and personnel within the building. And the Cowboys also interviewed Leslie Frazier, Robert Salah, and Kellen Moore. Now, when we break down the offenses that he has worked with as an offensive coordinator, right, we have to, break things down. So here we go. And this is from Garrett Podell from CBS Sports. So the '06 Jets, okay, 19.8 points per game, 18th in the league. The '07 Jets, 22.2 points per game, 25th in the league. The '08 Jets, 25.3 points per game, 9th in the league. The '09 Jets, 21.3 points per game, 17th in the league. The 2010 Jets, 22.9 points per game, 13th in the league. The 2011 Jets, 23.6 points per game, 13th in the league. The 2012 Rams, 18.7 points per game, 25th in the league. The 2013 Rams, 21.8 points per game, 21st in the league. The 2014 Rams, 20.3 points per game, 20th again. All right. The 2018 Seahawks, 26.8 points per game, 6th in the league. The 2019 Seahawks, 25.3 points per game, 9th in the league. The 2020 Seahawks, 28 points per game, 8th in the league. So my takeaway from all of this, out of all those years that he was an offensive coordinator, he's only had 4 years where he's had a top 10 offense. Okay? Outside of that, he's been very average to slightly above average to slightly below average. This is probably one of the worst hires that Jerry Jones has had in a very long time. Now, I wonder, why would Jerry make this type of move? Because you have someone like a Robert Salah, who is very qualified. You could have kept Mike McCarthy, who is very qualified, and you had a track record to show that the offense has been significantly better under his tenure. But instead, you decide to go with this guy. And there's no disrespect to him at all. I want everybody to get their, shot, to get their opportunity. But everybody knows when you are working for Jerry Jones is the judge, jury, and executioner of this thing. Okay? Decision is made without the approval of Jerry Jones. Not one draft pick, not one trade, not one signing, not one cut. Jerry Jones's approval. On one hand, maybe they did it because they felt that Robert Salah and Mike McCarthy were probably, out of the question. Because maybe it was probably going to be a little bit expensive. But you are probably one of the most popular teams in the world. Okay? Most people know about the Chicago Bulls, the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Yankees. You are bringing in well over $1 billion in revenue. Ad sales, people buying your jerseys, coffee cups, slippers, all those things. So why in the world could you just wrote a check to get one of these big names for the team instead of going with somebody who, by these stats, is average? You don't need average, especially in your division. When you have two offenses that are significantly better than yours. Okay, we literally just saw Washington almost make it to the Super Bowl. That's going to be a problem for the next 10 to 15 years. You don't have anybody on your team that can compete with that. You don't have anybody on your team that can compete with the Eagles. So why would you make this type of move, Jerry Jones? This is a little bit odd. Now, I do know there was a period in time where there was a report coming out that there was a little bit of an internal strife between him and his son because apparently Jerry Jones was interested in bringing in Deion Sanders and Stephen Jones was interested in elevating Brian Schottenheimer. If you hear something in the background, that's my dog Max moving. So, but anyway, back to the situation at hand. On one hand, I have so many questions, but all of my questions won't be asked until we actually see how he orchestrates this offense. Now, if the offense is phenomenal and they make it to the playoffs and they win, some playoff games, okay, cool. I'll give you, credit where credit is due. But if they don't go anywhere and they're actually worse with him than what they were with Mike McCarthy, I don't know. We got to have a conversation. You overpaid for Dak Prescott. You overpaid for CeeDee Lamb. You're trying to rebuild the offense as well as the defense. You're at a crossroads. What exactly made you say, okay, we're going to go with somebody internally instead of trying to bring in somebody from outside that can give us a spark that we need? I don't know. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so this is above me. But man, I have lost faith. I have lost everything. If I'm a season ticket holder, listen, every single game, I'm selling them. You want free tickets? You want some tickets? Here, take them. I'm not even a Cowboys fan no more. I've renounced myself from being a Cowboys fan because wow. But let's get into betrayal in Tampa, folks. Man, oh man, oh man. This is weird. This is very odd. But I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know. I'm trying to find the words to say, but this whole situation is so confusing. And if you listen to, what was it? Not this past episode, the second to last episode, where I was saying, I had my phone up and I was on Twitter because there was a lot of, back and forth going on with a lot of insiders saying, Liam Coen is about to be the next head coach for the Jaguars. He wasn't. He's in the building. He's not in the building. Robert Salah is there. It was a source off, okay? And you gotta love source offs. Those are the best thing in the world, okay? But let's get into this Liam Coen situation, okay? So Liam Coen, of course, is now the official head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? So let's get into his stats first, and then we'll get into the quotes and the entire situation, okay? So he started off as an assistant wide receiver coach with the LA Rams from 2018 and 2019, and then he moved to being the quarterback coach for the Rams in 2020, all right? Then he goes into college football and becomes the offensive coordinator for Kentucky in 2021. Then he goes back to the Rams and be their offensive coordinator in 2022. Then he goes back to Kentucky to be their offensive coordinator again in 2020. And then he goes to the Buccaneers and be their offensive coordinator in 2024. Yes, I know. Confusing. just hang on there. Just hang on. It's going to get more confusing, okay? So under his tenure with the Rams in 2022, they had the 32nd ranked offense, the 27th passing offense, and the 27th rushing offense, okay? With the Buccaneers in this past season, they had the 3rd ranked offense, the 3rd passing offense, and the 4th rushing offense. So that's pretty good compared to, his tenure with the Rams. Okay, cool. This is where things get crazy, okay? So I need you to buckle up, turn that volume up, because it's about to get weird, okay? So this is how it starts off, okay? So Jason Light, the general manager for the Bucs, came to Liam Coen and said, what will it take for you to stay with us? And he put in a request that he wanted to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in NFL history. Okay, cool. So Jason Light takes that request to the Glazer family, who happens to be the owners of the Bears, okay? And so they approve it, as well as approve Liam Coen to take the interview with the Jaguars so he can experience going through the process of becoming a head coach. Okay, cool. No problem with that. He was one of 3 finalists, including Robert Saleh and Patrick Graham. The problem with all of this is, of many, one of many, is that the Bucs contingent on Liam Coen not taking a second interview. Okay? I know. You probably have a shrugged up face right now like you just ate a lemon head. It's going to get more weird. So Coen requested more time and requested more money, in which the Glazer family denied and reinforced that the current offer, which was to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator, is the only offer that they have on the table and that they needed an answer by Monday. So Coen asked for more time and was given until Tuesday. And when asked again for more time, he informed them that he would have an answer by Wednesday. Meanwhile, he's waiting for the second round of interviews to happen with the Jaguars. So Wednesday morning comes around and Coen, I want you to remember this, verbally agreed with the Bucs deal. I want you to remember that. Verbally agreed with the Bucs deal. He talked with ownership. He talked with Todd Bowles. He even talked with a few players. Okay? Shortly after this, Trent Baalke, the general manager for the Jaguars, was fired. Okay? Coen was expected to sign the deal for the Buccaneers to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league that Wednesday afternoon, but he never showed up. The team tried reaching out to him, but was unsuccessful. Okay? Jason Light called and they had a conversation, and he asked if they can push the signing deal until Thursday morning, which was granted. Thursday morning comes around, and Coen has yet to appear, and the assistant general manager, Mike Greenberg, had to reach out to him, which was unsuccessful, as well as Todd Bowles and Jason Licht tried as well. Coen's agent informed the Buccaneers that Coen was dealing with a personal matter. So Liam Coen reached out to Todd Bowles to inform him that he was still dealing with the personal matter, but as well as let him know that things had changed in Jacksonville and that he was going to explore the option. A Bucs staffer, remember this, informed somebody from the Jaguar side. So basically somebody from the Jaguar side informed somebody from the Bucs side that they had spotted Liam Coen in the building. The Jaguars wanted to keep the meeting between them under the wraps and offered Coen the chance to choose his GM. They also satisfied the Rooney Rule by interviewing Patrick Graham, but by doing so, they canceled interview for Robert Salah that was slated for Friday morning. And this is all coming from Albert Breer, a very respected insider. So let's get into the statements that were put out, okay? So let's get into Liam Coen's statement first. And I quote, "Becoming the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars is an opportunity of a lifetime and one that I am going to run with to install a championship culture and winning tradition here in Duval. This doesn't happen without the support and opportunities that my family and I have been offered throughout my career, especially during this past season in Tampa Bay. We thank Todd Bowles for his continued support and the entire Buccaneers organization for the experience, and know they will have success ahead. Most of all, we are grateful to Shad Khan for his belief in what we will bring to the Jaguars. We will work tirelessly to reward his confidence. As head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I will hire a first-class coaching staff, establish a distinctive and effective brand of football on both sides of the ball, and our players will live for the black and teal. Shad and the Jaguars fans should expect nothing less, and that's what we plan to deliver and more. My wife Ashley and our family are honored to be here and a part of the Jacksonville community. We are ready to get to work." End quote. Now, this is what Shad Khan said on the hiring of Liam Coen. "To repeat my message earlier this week, I am deeply committed to building a winner here in Jacksonville. I also believe in being judged by actions, not words. That's why I took swift and decisive action this week to hire Liam Coen as the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am pumped that Liam is an opportunity to build the winner that Jaguars fans and partners fully deserve. I know our players feel the same." End quote. Now, this is what I will say. On one hand, I understand that there are only 32 head coaching opportunities. And I understand when one opens up that you have to take it if it is presented to you. However, there is a way that you go about it, okay? You don't just go to the team that you were just working for and say, "Oh, I want to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in league history." They grant it to you, and then when they tell you, "Hey, we need an answer by, expected date," you're continuing to buy time to see if the Jaguars are going to make their move and try to counteract what the Buccaneers are doing. I understand that you want to be a head coach, and that's perfectly fine. But certain situations, especially like this one, you have to choose stability over chaos. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes you have to choose stability over chaos, especially in the workforce. And the reason why I say that is because the Buccaneers are a stable organization, okay? The Glazers family have been in business long enough to know how to run a successful football operation. Jason Licht is a very well-respected general manager throughout league circles, and his track record shows it, okay? Compared to going to the Jaguars, where you have a very emotional, as I would say, owner, and a very toxic situation. Now you're trying to figure out how in the world are you, one, going to build this team, two, figure out who your GM is going to be, and three, figure out a way how you guys can begin creating winning football. That's a lot on your plate, and you're a first-time head coach. Now, it'll be different if you had somebody in mind that you can say, oh, they can be my GM. I've had history working with them. We have a good working relationship, all of that and more. But you don't have that. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of GMs that are just sitting around and saying, oh, yeah, I'll definitely take on that job. No, I would not touch this job with a 10-foot pole. I'm sorry. Because this has a mistake written all over it. Because now, guess what? If this team does not show anything within the first maybe 3 years, oh, you're out. And guess what? You and the GM are out. You guys are going to be a package deal. Because you know why? He's going to turn this thing around and say, guess what? I gave you the power to choose your GM. And here we are in the same situation that we've been in for the past 5 years or whatever. So it's those type of situations that you have to be concerned of, because your reputation is on the line. And if you fail horribly with this, it's going to be 10 times hard for you to get another head coaching job. That's why a lot of times you see the same head coaches staying in the same place, because why? They have shown a level of consistency wherever they've been, and they have maintained a status quo with that team. That's why you have certain organizations that are regarded and talked about so highly, like the Rams, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Those are the type of teams that are always going to be in a place of stability. Because why? Stability starts all the way in ownership, and it goes all the way down to the general managers and the front office. Compared to dysfunctional organizations like the Giants, the Jaguars, the Cowboys, the Bears, for instance. Places that have been struggling to find a level of consistency and a level of stability, but continue to make self-inflicted wounds every single chance that they get. So while I am happy that Liam Coen got a head coaching job, we also have to recognize that he is under a microscope from day one. Because now everybody, every assistant, every coordinator, front office and more, guess what? That all falls on your shoulders now. Just saying. Some people are built for a head coach. And some people are just not meant to be head coaches. And that's perfectly fine. You can still make a whole bunch of money being a coordinator. We've seen it. Spags is a perfect example. Spags was a head coach, didn't have the best success, now becomes a coordinator with the Chiefs, and is now going to be regarded as one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. No one's complaining, because why? He got championships and he's making money. No one really cares. But sometimes we look at the opportunity and not the things that come with the opportunity. That's a bar right there. I might have to write that down. But on to another coaching situation. That is former Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowik has been fired. Okay. So let's just get into the rankings of the offense. Then we will get into everything else that's associated with it. Okay. So in 2023, they had the 12th ranked offense. They were 7th in passing offense and 22nd in rushing. Okay. In 2024, they had the 22nd ranked offense. They were 21st in passing offense and 15th in rushing. Now, when we look at this, we all know that first year that Bobby Slowik was the offensive coordinator, that was their best year by none. Okay. That was the year that everyone was saying, oh, Bobby Slowik, might be a head coach next. He's being connected to, this team and that team that has, head coaching openings. And so he decides to stay with the Texans for one more year. Okay, cool. From the offensive line to the run game to even the passing game, the Texans offense as a whole was not as productive as that first year. People could say, it's the sophomore slump, or, teams had schemed up a better plan against the Texans. It could be any of those things. But the fact of the matter is that production that they saw in 23 was not there in 24. And so what better way to make sure that you can keep your best opportunity of staying relevant as well as possibly making a run with someone like a CJ Stroud? Get off of Bobby Slowik, bring in somebody else. Because at the end of the day, if things are not working, there's no need to try to force it. Sometimes it's just good to just move off, go in a different direction, and just figure out what do we need to do moving forward. Okay? Because at the end of the day, I want people to remember this. We are in a business of production. And if you are not being productive, guess what? You are going to unfortunately lose your job and someone else is going to take your place. That is for players as well as coaches, GMs, and more. And so this is what happened. Now the question is, who are they going to make their offensive coordinator next? Me personally, the first person I would have thought of is maybe Pep Hamilton or Byron Leftwich. And the reason why I say that is because Pep Hamilton has experience working with the Texans. Okay. Now, granted, he worked with Davis Mills at the time. This was before they got CJ Stroud. I think if you bring in Pep Hamilton and maybe even Byron Leftwich as well, I think you could really maximize the potential that this Texans offense has. Because Joe Mixon, that's a dog. You got Stephon Diggs, you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell, you got Dalton Schultz. This is a really good offense. All it needs is just better productivity from a play calling standpoint. That's it. Well, got to work on the offensive line as well because offensive line was just atrocious. But that's another story for another day. The fact of the matter is this. They need to bring in somebody that is going to take this team to the next level. Because right now, in my mind, this is a playoff caliber team. This is a team that can easily win their division because their division is still dysfunctional, okay? You have the Titans that are still going through rebuild. You have the Colts that are trying to figure out their left from their right. And you have the Jaguars that are, I don't know, stuck in the swamp. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes it's just good to just go your separate ways. Let's talk about Robert Salah going back to Cali, okay? Former Jets head coach Robert Salah has rejoined the 49ers as their defensive coordinator, as expected by a few people, okay? Now, when we break things down, okay, in 2017, under Robert Salah, they had the 22nd against the pass and 22nd against the run. 2018, they had the 13th ranked defense. They were 11th in pass defense and 14th in run defense. In 2019, they had the second ranked defense. They were first in pass defense and 17th in run defense. And then in 2020, they had the fifth ranked defense, fourth in pass defense, and seventh in run defense. Now, we all know that under Robert Salah, especially from 18 to 2020, that is when the 49ers defense was spectacular, was elite, was punching people in the mouth. And since then, they've had their struggles, okay? Let's just be real here. They have had significant struggles. And so I think bringing somebody back like a Robert Salah, who by all means, was very well respected within that organization and the players, I think it does help them significantly. Because let's be real here, folks. Robert Salah is going to get another head coaching job, okay? We all know that the situation in New York was atrocious. It was toxic, and it didn't help that you have someone like Aaron Rodgers who will just willingly throw you under the bus every single chance that he has, and will continue to do so until the end of time. And so everyone realizes, listen, some of that was not on Robert Salah's plate. Some of that was out of his control. And sometimes it's just good to just take a pivot, come back home, figure things out, your strengths and your weaknesses, and then go back out, try it again. And that's perfectly fine because we saw exactly the Jets defense being super productive under Robert Salah. And then when he left, well, not even left, but when he was fired, okay, and Jeff Albrecht stepped in, that defense was not the same. I'm just saying here, folks, Robert Salah has a major effect on the defense. Everywhere he goes, he has a major effect on the defense. I would not be surprised within the next 2 years, Robert Salah is a head coach again. Now let's get into Pete Carroll going to Sin City, folks. That's right. Pete Carroll, Seahawks head coach, is now a Raider. Okay. Now when we look at this was actually a really good hire. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because the Raiders needed true leadership. Okay. And this is no shot at Antonio Pierce or whatever, but they needed somebody who has experience. They needed somebody who is able to communicate with the players and bring the best out of players. When we look at the entire Seahawks situation, that was Pete Carroll's MO, which was relating to the players. From DK Metcalf to Marshawn Lynch to Richard Sherman and more. Each and every person has something positive to say about Pete Carroll because he was able to talk with them on a level that both of them were able to understand. And so I think this gives a little bit of hope to someone like a Max Crosby who, let's be real here, has been in limbo for the last few years because he's been a part of all the foolishness that has happened with the Raiders. From Josh McDaniels to Antonio Pierce, he's been through it all. And he wants to be able to experience winning football. And what better person to experience winning football with than with a guy named Pete Carroll? Okay, this is the same person that was shirtless with DK Metcalf when they had their combine meetings. Like, this is how wild Pete Carroll is. And so I do believe this gives the Raiders some hope. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, go on a crazy run and go to the Super Bowl, but I do think this could bring in a breath of fresh air for this team because let's look at what happened a few years ago, okay? Remember, when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, who did he bring out of retirement? Bruce Arians. And guess what happened? He won a Super Bowl. Now he's applying that same recipe over here with the Raiders to see if it's going to work, which I think it possibly could work. I think there's a good chance that Russell Wilson might actually go and work with Pete Carroll because outside of all the coaches that he's worked with, Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll, Sean Payton doesn't count because Sean Payton really didn't like Russell Wilson, but that's another story for another day. But outside of those two, he's had the most success with Pete Carroll. That's his guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson goes to the Raiders, and that's going to be hilarious. But that's another story for another day. But we have to talk about some Steelers football here, folks. Big Ben speaks on the state of the Steelers. Woo! Man, oh man, oh man. He is dropping some truth bombs here, folks. So let's just get into it. And I quote, okay? It still feels like there's no Steelers way anymore. There's still guys who have it, but it doesn't feel like it. It frustrates me to watch it happen. It might be time to figure out what you've got to do for the next couple years to make a run. I don't know that they're close, to be honest. You go get a guy if you think you're only a quarterback away from winning. They're just not a quarterback away, in my opinion. If Russ is willing to take a lower deal for less money, I'd go with Russ. If not, I don't think it's an issue to give Justin a shot. Why not? Give him a chance. What's the worst that can happen? If you go with Justin, you pay him less money than Russ, you save some money. If it doesn't go well, you're right back where you are right now and can draft a guy. Do you really think the team is built for a Super Bowl run? I don't think it is yet. Now, this comes from Jerry Dulac, one of the big dogs for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So shout out to him for this amazing interview with Big Ben. Now, this is what I will say. He is 100% right. He is spot on from start to finish, okay? And the reason why I say that is because the Steelers for the past few years have been very dysfunctional. Ever since Ben retired, it has been a nosedive into the ground. When we look at it, they have mishandled drafting, free agency signings, coaching hires, and coaching firings. They have mishandled all of that lately. And it has pushed them back significantly. Do I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, fellow football junkies, the last first round pick that the Steelers have given a second contract to was TJ Watt. That was the last person. Since then, nobody else has gotten to that second contract. And the streak continues because now Najee most likely will not be joining the team as well. On top of that, the mishandling of the Kenny Pickett situation. Now, I'm not saying that Kenny was innocent. No, I'm not, because he has a hand to play in his own demise as well. Anytime that you do not suit up for a game to be the emergency quarterback because you feel like that you should be out on the field and you should be out there over Mason Rudolph and whatnot, but that's a different story for a different day. Because I have a lot to say about Kenny Pickett as well, because I'm starting to see a trend going on for some people, especially on Twitter, about, Kenny Pickett and whatnot. So we're going to shut that down. But back to the Steelers as a whole, though. When you do not draft well, it's going to hurt you then, and it's going to hurt you now. And the reason why I say that is because drafting is a very pivotal part in building a Steelers championship team. Okay? You look at any of the championship teams, from the '08 Steelers to, the Steel Curtain, all of those, they were built from the draft. And so far, they have not hit well in the draft. Not on their first round picks, and definitely not on their day 2 and day 3 picks. And so you have a mixture of that on top of the mishandling of the Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett situation, which we all knew and all said that they should have fired Matt Canada after that first year. On top of that, the mishandling of the quarterback situation, where you bring in someone like a Mitchell Trubisky, you don't tell him that you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, and then on top of that, you just say, okay, yeah, you're going to start first, and then during the middle of the game, you pull him out, and then you put Kenny Pickett in. That's a lot of mishandling, and that falls on the Steelers. And that is exactly why the Steelers are farther away from being a true Super Bowl contender, because they cannot overcome their own struggles. We are living in a time now where if you do not have a guy at quarterback, you are not going to win a championship. You just won't be able to compete with the best of them. If you don't have a Burrow, a Lamar, a Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, or even a Justin Herbert, you're not going to make it that far. I don't care if you have the highest paid offense. I don't care if you have the highest paid defense. It don't matter. If you don't have a guy, you're not going to go anywhere. Look at Washington. For the longest time, since RG3, we're just shuffling through quarterbacks. Shuffling. Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke. Who else? Ryan Fitzpatrick. They was just shuffling through quarterbacks. And then guess what? It only took one draft. They got Jaden Daniels. Bam. That first year with Jaden Daniels, they went all the way to the NFC Championship. May I remind people, they were pretty close from going to the Super Bowl this year. And all it takes is just one shot. And so now we're going through that phase that a lot of teams go through, which is trying to figure out exactly what are we going to do moving forward when it comes to the quarterback position. And granted, I understand. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger and whatnot. I get all of that. We have the right to feel that way because the standard is the standard. We're all told that, the standard is the standard and our standard is, championships. We haven't been playing championship football in over a decade, okay? And what pains me the most is we are wasting the prime years of a TJ Watt, of a Cam Hayward, of a Minkah Fitzpatrick, because we cannot get our own act together. Because we decided we wanted to make a decision to rewrite the wrong that we didn't do in the 80s. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. Back in the day, the Steelers were interested in Dan Marino. The only reason why the Steelers did not draft Dan Marino was because there were allegations coming out that Dan Marino was using cocaine while he was at Pitt. And so for the longest time, that was a thorn in their side. And then you have someone named Kenny Pickett that's coming out of Pitt. And now you're trying to rewrite that wrong. Guess what happened? It done put you in a hole. And now you have him who's on the cusp of possibly winning a Super Bowl. And now you have fans that are saying, well, Kenny Pickett could do it. He can do it. He's definitely going to win them a Super Bowl. Let me tell you something here. I want you to hear me very clearly, okay? This is the same Kenny Pickett who literally was put in the game, the last game of the season against Washington, and choked the game away. The Eagles had a lead over Washington, and he choked the game away. That's the same Kenny Pickett that everybody is concerned about, that everybody is in a hoopla about. Really? That guy? Come on. Come on, guys. I need you to take your emotional glasses off for just a moment, okay? And while we're at it, I definitely saw a narrative that also caught my attention, and that was, somebody said, I'm not going to give the name because I'm not going to give them power, but they said that the Steelers were a better team than the Commanders. Newsflash. No, we're not. No, we're not. The only difference is we have better pieces than Washington, but the fact of the matter is Washington is a better team than us. When we look at things from an overall perspective, they have a better coaching staff, and they're in a way better situation than what we are. Because you know why? They got their guy. They got their guy. Jaden Daniels is their guy. All right? Jaden Daniels could be the reason why they become Super Bowl champions. We don't have that over here. They're in probably one of the best situations in the entire league. They're going to have a boatload of cap space. They're going to have a really good draft pick. And they don't have a whole lot of holes that they have to fill on their team. Oh, they're going to be super competitive. They're going to be problems in the next 10 to 15 years. Meanwhile, we're trying to get our act together so we can at least try to win at least one playoff game. Not two, not three, not the Super Bowl. Just one. And we haven't been able to win one in close to a decade. Come on. I need you guys to take the emotional glasses off and be real. Okay? Be real with yourself. But let's get into the last topic, and that is Russ trying to get back and win the hearts of people in Pittsburgh. Okay? So he appeared on the Pat McAfee show not too long ago, and he had this to say, and I quote, "Yes, we have started to talk a little bit. Obviously, we have had our meetings and everything else. We're just getting into it. Going into Pittsburgh was a special place for me. I love it, and hopefully I can play there a lot longer. It's a special place because of the guys in the locker room and the traditions and the people and the winning. Plus, you got Mike Tomlin, who's arguably the best coach of all time. One of the top ones. I got so much more in me, man. I'm excited. Obviously, my goal is to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers a long time and hopefully finish my career there." End quote. Now, when we look at SpotRax's market value for Russ, it's 2 years, $77.4 million, which is $38.7 million a year. Now, this was probably the old market value when we were 10-3. Now that the season is over and we're in Cancun, sipping pina coladas and mimosas, it's probably less than that, significantly. You see, I would have had a problem if we would have at least won 2 of those last games, right? But for us to go 5-game slump, horrible, absolutely horrible. On top of that, we get crushed in Baltimore, okay? It was just atrocious. That last half of the season, it was just bad play. And in my mind, I think the team realizes, listen, we have to give Justin Fields a legitimate chance because they didn't. And Justin Fields had a better skill set to win than Russell Wilson at this point. Now, if this was Seattle Russell Wilson, listen, Justin Fields, get out the way. Russ, do your thing. Cook, okay? But Russ has reached the point where he can no longer be, that effective quarterback that he used to be, where he could just, roll out the pocket and, wait a few seconds and then, make some magic and whatnot. He can't do that no more. And that's fine. But you're going to have to go somewhere else because, bro, you are putting a cap on this team. I don't understand for the life of me why people think that Russell Wilson will be the best, chance for us, because we need a quarterback that is able to extend the play, that is able to run if need be. Mike Tomlin has been saying this for the past few years now. And now that you have an opportunity to do so, you have to act on it. Justin Fields, you can get him for less. But the selling point is this: if you take less, we're going to surround you with weapons. We're going to give you an entire offseason to evaluate you and to see exactly if you are the long-term solution or if we need to be aggressive in next year's draft class to trade up and to possibly find our guy. This is the selling point, okay? Because if he goes anywhere else, there's not a legitimate guarantee that he's going to be surrounded with a better situation. So there's a lot of tough decisions that are going to have to be made moving forward, okay? I understand people want, this person to get fired and that person to get fired and Mike Tomlin to go. And I understand all of that. That's most likely not going to happen, okay? Most likely, in my mind, I think they'll probably make some additions to the coaching staff. Me personally, I think if you just add assistants in places that you are weak at, I think it would definitely be a plus. Because look, when we added Brian Flores for that 1 year, we all saw how more productive the defense was. So if you see it, then that is something that you have to continue to do moving forward. Also, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to get into, everything else. Arthur Smith was successful when he had a veteran offensive line, okay? When you had Taylor Lewan and Nate Davis and Ben Jones and Roger Saffold and company. That's when he was the most successful. Just saying. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please make sure that you guys are downloading the episode, leaving a 5-star review on anywhere that you listen to the Football Junkies podcast. Okay, we are available on all streaming platforms, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RSS feed, and anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Okay, now for our YouTube people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. When you go on the YouTube, there is a link tree. You go on the link tree and it'll take you to anywhere and everywhere that you can get Football Junkies content, okay? Now, for my TikTok people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. I got 4 mock drafts that I got to put out today because I didn't put out 2 yesterday, so stay tuned for those. For my Instagram people, Football_Junkies Pod, okay? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced, okay? For my Twitter people, GM Kale, okay? GM Kale, Kaile. I'll have the Football Junkies logo as my profile pic, okay? Follow me on there, all my debating. That's where I also post the episodes and, all those things and more, okay? Now, for my Blue Sky people, all right? It's the same handle, GM Kale, okay? GM Kale. As always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. Stay tuned. We're going to have another episode talking about both games that happened this past weekend. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. This is your GM Kale, who currently is not on the team right now, but don't you worry about it, who currently is the chief head of the table with anything and everything related to the bag and more. Kale, signing out. Peace and love.